Well, thank you very much, Daisy. And first of all, let me, if I may, congratulate the Lord Mayor, Alderman Fiona Woolf, on choosing this topic for her year to focus on this topic. Absolutely the right topic. Thank you for that, Fiona. Now, I'm going to, first of all, step back from London and take a global view. If we look at the development of humanity across the planet, something is happening in the demographic trend that creates qualitatively new challenges for all of our societies across the planet. It's not population growth, it's the rapid rise in human well-being, which I would measure by the number of middle-class people on the planet's surface. People who spend between $10 and $100 a day. 1 billion in the year 2000. We passed 2 billion last year. So we've already doubled the number of middle-class consumers. And the expectation, and I'm using data from a whole range of economists, the expectation is close to 5 billion by 2030, just 15 years' time. The good news, 5/8 of the human population will be middle class. The challenge is whether or not our planet can deliver the expectations of the global middle class, ourselves included, because we will all be competing for the same commodities, and of course we're all living on the same planet. And so the dual challenges are one of diminished resources, and in terms of diminished resources, how do we need to challenge that? We need to move away from that linear economy of last century that was so successful, by which I mean we take material goods, we convert them into marketable goods, and then we create waste. We move on to a circular economy in which there is no waste, and waste is seen as a resource, the waste of yesterday. And I'm very, very keen to talk to you about human waste, but perhaps I should move on from that. But that is a resource. 1% of human solid waste is nitrates and phosphates. The cost of extracting them would be well covered by the cost of them in the marketplace, by the sale of the products in the marketplace. So we have to move on from the diminished resources to meet the challenges into a new kind of model, a new way of thinking. Every manufactured good should be designed so that it can be recovered and returned to the marketplace when it reaches the end of its time. But secondly, the mismanaged ecosystems. And of course, I am representing the Foreign Secretary on climate change in my global travels. And here we're talking about carbon dioxide emissions and the removal of forests being part of the rise of carbon dioxide. But of course, the use of fossil fuels is the major part of that process. So we have to move our society into a close to zero carbon dioxide society. The British government has decided that we will reduce our emissions by 80% compared with 1990 by 2050. And we have a climate change office that is keeping us on track. And I'm very pleased to say the first period, 2008 to 2012, we have actually passed the carbon budget that we were given. And so we are on track to a very substantial reduction as we move forward. But that will require all of us to focus on that, all of us, particularly in situations of responsibility. Let me just say, it's not just global warming. Ocean acidification is a parallel process occurring. 72% of the Earth's surface is oceans. As the sea level rises, that percentage may go up. But the acidification of the oceans is actually potentially going to destroy much of marine life. So we're looking at situations where not only do we have a commodity challenge, but we also have a massive ecosystem challenge. So when we're busy talking about future-proofing, and I'm delighted that all the speakers have chosen to focus on that, Fiona, Gerard, Tessa, all looking at future-proofing, This long-range view becomes absolutely essential as we move forward in time. Now, Future Cities Catapult is the brainchild of the Technology Strategy Board. I'm chairing this body, so let me just tell you what our ambition is, what we plan to be doing. So first of all, we are just over a year old in terms of my own appointment, but then, of course, Chief Executive had to be appointed. So we're a very young organization still. But after I was appointed, I first of all traveled to many major cities in the world to find out whether what we were planning to do had a unique place in what is a very busy environment of developing resilience through Future Cities knowledge networks. And I'm convinced that what we're doing, we're planning to create a global hub that I will describe, is unique worldwide. And it became very, very clear to me as I traveled around, and often people said to me, whether in New York or Washington or Delhi, that London was the ideal place to set up a global hub of this kind to establish future cities in the way we plan. Why is London ideal? Well, you've heard all of the good reasons why London is an exemplar. Let me also add a peculiar one, if you like. Our city is a medieval city. It's very easy to remind you of that in this particular hall. And I believe that medieval cities are actually the design model for 21st century and 22nd century cities. Now, why do I say that? The cities of Europe, the medieval cities, were designed before the arrival of the car, the automobile. These cities were designed for people to walk about. Not many people had horses and carriages at their disposal. These are cities with mixed facilities within walking distance of many, many of their citizens. And walkability, and I add now, not from medieval times, cyclability, is a big part of delivering human well-being as we move forward in time. So as a model city for new urban developments around the world, this becomes critical. Now let me go back, that rising middle class, new urban developments around the world. By 2050, there will be an additional 3.3 billion urban dwellers in the Asia-Pacific region and 1.3 billion additional urban dwellers in Africa. There is the challenge, but it is also the opportunity. And it's an opportunity that can be addressed through the capabilities that you've heard about that we have here in London. I believe that as we move forward in time, the architects, the engineers, the urban development planners, the building capabilities, resilient buildings, low-carbon buildings, the financial sector, of course, a great strength, and the academic expertise that we have in this city can be rolled out for the benefit of a bigger part of the world. Not that we can go about the business of redesigning and designing cities for the whole world, but that we can set exemplar cities going, that we can work with other cities. Now, I can tell you that Future Cities Catapult is now on the agenda for many, many cities around the world. We're creating here in London is a mechanism, a global hub, where we can pull together expertise and then use that expertise in many different parts of the world. What are we doing as we set ourselves up? Well, under the banner of livability, sustainability, low carbon, we're focusing on three things in our initial development. The first is on developing prototypes, so identifying, supporting, and improving ideas for new urban products and services. These are products and services with commercial applications such as new city navigation technology. Secondly, proving through data modeling. So collecting in our cities lab big data from companies and also from city service providers such as Transport for London, but also rich data, that is data from ethnographic studies, demographic data, data from citizen input, this collection of data, then put into our modeling capability. We bring together into this master planners, anthropologists, future specialists, and with that capacity, we can then test city development at scale. We can model a given city and then test future developments at scale. And we're looking out into the future, not next year, but 10 years, 20 years, 50 years hence, so that we are able to future-proof cities as we move forward. And then finally, scaling, and a topic that Fiona knows more about than most. We help deploy new products and services in major infrastructure projects. So we're working to identify barriers to their uptake and help access finance to bring cutting-edge solutions to the market. So the bottom line is we're creating a global hub and an urban laboratory. The creation of this hub is such that we will create a space, we will create a magnet through our own staff, but we'll create a space where we will invite people from London, but people from around the world to come and spend time with us, months or even years, so that we are working with best practice as it's developed around the world, bringing it all into one place and sharing best practice as we go forward. So just to summarize, we're assembling policymakers, private sector players, we're bringing together academics and financiers. The idea is to assist in the creation of future-proofed cities focused on the well-being of the citizens of those cities first and foremost, contributing to the challenges of poverty eradication, inclusiveness, human capital development, all of those things, natural resource depletion high on our agenda, that issue of waste, and ecosystem protection in the face of these increased challenges that are ahead of us. And then finally, collaborating on new mechanisms. So we're a new facility here in London. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to introduce you to what we are building up to do. And I know my chief executive is nervous if I don't use this phrase, building up to do. We're not quite there yet, but we are developing. We're in a very rapid phase of development now. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.